Hello, Nevada County. It's your friendly neighborhood political correspondent. Here at Nevada County Media, I aim to educate and empower voters by interviewing local political leaders. My guest today is Nevada County Clerk Recorder and Registrar of Voters, Natalie Adona. Hello, Ms. Adona. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello.
And, we had you in recently talking about the election. So let's just do a little recap. So the election has happened, and I think that people are now waiting for the results, and they're probably wondering, how secure was our election? What can you say about election security?
I can say that I am very confident in the security of this election, and it's because we have done a lot of planning leading up to Election Day and beyond. So for election security, I think it's important to think about it in two respects. First, there's cybersecurity. And then there's physical security. So, on the cybersecurity side, elections have evolved a lot over the years. The introduction of technology, I think, has made marked improvements in how we vote. But, there's also, other sort of considerations to worry about with the introduction of more sophisticated technologies, in particular, the internet and artificial intelligence. So, I think that anyone who's heard me speak has said, well, I thought you said that, elections weren't connected to the internet. The voting system is not connected to the internet. That is absolutely true, and that is a matter of law. We may not have any component of any voting system connected to the internet at any time, no exceptions. That is different from our election management system, which is connected to the statewide database that's known as VoteCal. VoteCal is the repository of all voter registrations and voter history for the state of California. We are known as a bottom-up state, and I'm getting real wonky here, but just bear with me. So all 58 counties maintain a voter registration roll at the county level. We need to make sure that that information gets to the statewide database. Similarly, there are a ton of ways that the state reaches out to voters to register them. Most notably can register at the Department of Motor Vehicles, and there are sort of other mandated agencies that need to offer you a voter registration. There's also other factors that may disqualify you from voting. So we get a lot of data from voters, from the state, and from various different sources. Those data need to be synchronized with each other. And so having a secure network in order to make sure that all of that information gets shared safely is very important. So, our IT department, I think, does a fabulous job partnering with us and making sure that all of those systems are secure and people's personal information just doesn't, sort of go out there. We also, sort of live in a world where foreign adversaries are trying to bust into statewide registration systems. And so cybersecurity is a very sort of important feature. We have people who unfortunately try to trick government workers into opening bad emails with malicious attachments on them. So we do things like, train all of our staff, myself included, on recognizing bad emails, flagging them, making sure that we do not share them, or, worse, have a situation where there's ransomware. It is a very complex process that we have continual training on. So, that's sort of the surface of the whole cybersecurity stuff. Yeah. On the other side of it is physical security, and for as long as I can remember, there have been procedures in place to make sure that the voting equipment is safe and that ballots are handled securely and, with seriousness. So, for example, you can't have anyone who's alone with a ballot. There's got to be two people. There's got to be a rigorous chain of custody and documentation where we sort of very clearly spell out Where did we pick up ballots from? When did we? Who picked them up? And who brought them to the main office? We also, have a lot of cameras around to make sure that, the public can see that there is two-person verification. And, unfortunately, nowadays, we do have to worry about the people who are powering the election and their safety. There has been a, sort of unprecedented level of threats, harassment, and intimidation of election workers.
In Nevada County, too?
Yes, in Nevada County, but, I think in, across the nation. So, we have partnered with our local law enforcement and our federal and state partners on doing things like tabletop exercises where we sort of test out our contingency plans, get briefs, and a lot of information so we can make sure that we are taking the necessary steps to make sure that our people are safe and that voters are safe and everyone has a great experience working elections.
So by partnering with law enforcement, are there law enforcement in each of the polling locations?
No, and that's actually a legal requirement. So, way back in the day, think of, the civil rights era. There were people who were, sort of using, official-looking uniforms, and even some law enforcement, in some cases, unfortunately, who would sort of station themselves outside of voting locations. And, it can be quite intimidating, especially for classes of voters who, may have a family member who remembers when they did not have the right to vote. It is just a sort of unfortunate period in history.
Yeah.
And one of the lessons learned from that is you do not sort of have someone just sort of stationed at a voting location just sort of overlooking it, because it can be pretty overwhelming for people. But that's not to say that if there's an emergency, of course, the law enforcement can respond to something like that. And they can also vote themselves. I mean, if they want to come in and vote, that's perfectly fine. But, usually the all of our law enforcement, they're like, they'll call my office and be like, is this okay? Can I do this? And and by and large, I'm like, yes, please vote.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah. So I think right now you guys are probably in the process of verifying everyone's signatures, and I know that you talked about signature verification with us. So how else can people be assured that each vote that is cast is counted, but also each vote that is cast is legitimate? Like, what do you guys do about quote unquote dead people voting?
Well, we have a list that comes to us every month from public health notifying us of who has passed away. And actually we sort of have a constant stream of people who, we need to update their status. For the most part, it's people who've moved. Occasionally people unfortunately die, and so we have to look at the details in order to see, whether that ballot is qualified or not. Sometimes people get disqualified due to incarceration for a felony conviction. We'll get those lists from the Department of Corrections. Occasionally, someone will be disqualified because they're under a kind of conservatorship that a judge tells us this person is not fit to vote. We don't get a whole heck of a lot of those. Just being a conservator on its own is not enough. A judge actually has to decide this person may not vote, and we need sort of an official court document for that. So that kind of list maintenance happens all the time, but on top of that, we have the elections canvass. That is our post-election period where we'll continue to count some ballots that come in that we can lawfully count, but it also includes the 1% manual tally. That is our audit to make sure that the machines which we rigorously test before the election actually worked as expected. We'll audit all of the in-person voting locations to make sure that what was reported is actually what we got back. I think one of the most important integrity measures that we have is that the public is free to observe all of it. So we encourage people almost till we're blue in the face, come in, see what we do, ask questions. Under the California Bill of Voter Rights, you have the right to ask questions and get answers to those questions. And, if you have a line of 20 people asking the same question, doesn't matter. We're happy to answer it and direct people to all kinds of resources. There's a live stream that is, up in our office that, we try to maintain all the time. So if you can't make it to our office, you can see what it is that we're doing and that we're keeping all of the ballots secure and, sort of making sure that the record of the election remains free of tampering.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's go back to the cybersecurity a little bit, because so you have so the voter machines are not hooked up to the internet at all by law. Voter information is a part of the California-wide system, or it feeds into the California-wide system. What about the vote count? Like, what happens? So the vote count obviously is fed somewhere online, and then it goes into the statewide. What's that flow like?
Okay, so the process of us retrieving the results, actually, none of that is online. In fact, even within the voting system itself, those machines can't be hooked up to each other. So what we do is we take a device. We use the voting system that's created by Hart InterCivic, and it has a something that looks like a thumb drive. We call it a V drive, and it holds the election results for us. So we'll load it up onto this USB stick, and we will actually walk that from that tabulation machine over to count, and we'll load that up, and we'll sort of update the tabulation. And sort of the cool thing is about the system is that there are sort of a lot of backstops to keep us from like counting a V drive more than once. We also have a system of numbering all of the batches of things that we count, so we can actually go back and when we do our audit in particular, see where there may be a discrepancy, if any. We've enjoyed a period where we have no discrepancies, and I think that's great. And I think it's because there are a lot of fail safes that are sort of built into the voting system. And I mean, even if someone tried to put a V drive into that equipment that'll tabulate, it just won't do it. It'll give you a flag that says this has been counted already. So some people might have heard that there's been unfortunate situations in other places where maybe the test deck was included in the official results, and we have a number of processes to make sure that does not happen, and it can't happen. And I give full credit to my team for really paying attention to the training and keeping up with all of the processes and all of the systems that the vendor offers us to make sure that we are doing things right. We also, what a lot of people don't know is that we have to make sure that the paper that we use is certified for that election. This is not just paper that you can get at Kinko's or, Office Max or something. It is special paper, and it has to go through this whole process where, the vendor pretty much has to show what security measures have been taken at their level to keep that paper secure. It has a watermark. That watermark is assigned for every election. For this election, it was a bear.
Wow, okay.
We do not have a valid ballot if we don't have it on certified paper with the watermark. So, it is a sort of very detailed process, and it is all spelled out in the law.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
So, I think it's pretty cool.
I know. Fair, yeah. I mean, so somebody can't vote with last election's ballot or whatever.
No,
yeah,
no, not at all.
Because there's a different watermark on it.
There's a different watermark on it, and for the last election, there's totally different contests on it.
Right, of course.
And our system, we have these procedures that are referred to as air gap procedures. So normally air gap keeps you away from the internet, and that's absolutely true. But part of those air gap procedures also keep election data separate between elections. So if someone tried to turn in their primary ballot, for example, I don't know why you would, we couldn't even run it through the machine. It would be rejected because the machine would be like, I don't understand what this is. I don't have any information about this other thing
Yeah.
And yeah, it just wouldn't count.
So it sounds like some of this is kind of like skirting AI a little bit. And so you mentioned AI at the very beginning of our conversation. How has that impacted elections at all? And does that have any impact on election security?
So far, I have not seen an example of it impacting sort of the mechanics of the election, like, the sort of processes that I just described to you. But we have seen examples throughout the nation of artificial intelligence potentially interfering with elections process. So, back in the primary, I can't remember what state it was, but there was a series of robocalls, and AI was used to mimic the president's voice.
Oh, wow.
And, that message had basically told those voters to vote on another day other than election day.
I heard about that.
Yeah. So, there's, certainly a danger in that, a danger in AI, sort of creating basically a facsimile of a real person and having them say things that they didn't say. I actually saw sort of a story on a news site that, sort of made my heart skip. It was a little disturbing to me, where there is a sort of tool on the social media platform formerly known as Twitter. It's called Grok, and it is able to create AI images. And so this news organization said, show us election workers putting a bunch of ballots into a ballot box. And it created something that looked passable if you weren't looking for the right things. So, it's that kind of thing that I think we're worried about. It's not really the mechanics of the election so much as it is the ability of a tool like that to influence people and to misdirect them and make them think that there's something happening that maybe is not true.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's scary.
It is, but I think that what gives me hope. There are a couple of things that give me hope. And, one, we are very prepared. I mean, I was not kidding when, I said we start preparing a year or more in advance. We have been talking about sort of situations like this, we being me, my peers, my contemporaries in other states. We've been talking about issues like this for what seems like forever. So I think one of the things about the 2020 election that was so sort of jarring, so shocking to many people who are in positions like mine is that a lot of the stuff was unprecedented. I mean, I feel like a lot of us were, sort of caught off guard by everything that went on. But now knowing, sort of what has happened before, we're better able to prepare. So that's one. Two, the thing that really gives me hope is, the Nevada County voters, they really care, they're paying attention, and they ask questions. And, I think at the end of the day, that's just, sort of great. The third thing is, I am very connected with a whole bunch of people in California and, in other states who, we have our elections war stories, you can't believe what happened to me the other day. I know and I have great confidence that if I were to call somebody and say, hey, I need help with a serious issue, do you mind just giving me your thoughts? They would drop everything and help me. And I would do the same for them. It's because we all care so much about doing it right and, making sure that everything is lawful, that it's ethical, and that we are serving voters. And there's no other reason to be here other than to serve the voting population.
Yeah, it's an incredibly important right. Yeah, thank you so much for all your service, and good luck with certification.
Oh, I think it's going to be just a fun time, or at least, we like it. But it does get to be like, okay, can we move on to Christmas now?
Yeah, vacation. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, if you'd like more information about the Nevada County Clerk Recorder and Registrar of Voters and its work in Nevada County, visit nevadacountyca.gov. There you can contact Natalie Adona, who runs the agency. And if you have any feedback on this piece, please email me at ncnpolitics@gmail.com. It has been my privilege to be with you today. And remember, when it comes to politics, if you're not at the table, you might be on the menu. Thank you, Natalie Adona, and thanks for staying informed, Nevada County. I'll see you soon with another special guest.